Hello, I'm Ollie. This is Criminolly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, none of that. Today, I'm going to talk about why I love books. So this is a video I've been thinking about doing for a while, and it's gone through various iterations in my mind in terms of what it was actually going to be about. Originally, I was going to do one on Kindle books versus paper books, but the more I thought about it, the more I thought that was a bit of a trite comparison. And there are already plenty of videos on YouTube discussing that. And you know, for me, it's as simple as Kindle books are more convenient sometimes. Paper books have got a bit more soul. Maybe it's as simple as that. I didn't really feel like I had a great deal more to say about it than that. But while I was going through the kind of planning process for that video, and believe it or not, I do sometimes plan my videos, I was thinking about what I like about paper books. And then more recently, I did the book collector or book collection tag video. And in that, I think I said something like, I don't really consider myself to be a book collector, I'm a book acquirer. And it got me thinking about what it is about books as physical objects that I love, but that means I don't want to collect them. So I'm not someone who buys, like multiple editions of the same book, or who, looks for that perfect edition of a particular book. I love books for the words that they contain. I love books for the stories. I'm not into, I'm not so into kind of thinking about them as physical objects. But there are still things I love about them as physical objects. So my brain was going back and forth on this one, and I've landed on what I want to say about it, which is what I'm going to talk about today. So bear with me and see what you think. And there's two parts to this. So basically what I want to talk about is why I love books as physical objects, what I love about books as physical objects. And as I say, there's two parts to this, and one is very broadly about paper books, and the other one is more specifically about older paper books. So I'll do the first part first, the broad part. So I just did a quick look up on Google, and the first bound books were in around the year 100 AD. Yeah, so that's the first time that people put pages together into the form of a book, and it was done in India apparently. And what is this? So this is let's find a more modern one. So what is this Cormac McCarthy book, but pages with letters on them bound together? So we as a civilization have been doing this for nearly 2,000 years. So that's amazing. And physically, this is not identical to a book that was made in 100 AD, but it's not that far away from it, is it? Conceptually, it's the same. The printing press was introduced by Gutenberg in about 1440. So that is, what's that? That's nearly 600 years ago, so 580 odd years ago. And certainly a bound book that was printed on an early printing press versus this is going to be different, but it's not going to be massively different. Yeah, so that that revolution in 1440 of being able to mass produce books by putting ink onto paper and then binding them, that's how we make books now. I'm sure that the machines are much more whizzy now and can make more books per hour for less money, etc., etc. But books basically haven't changed, and I think that's wonderful that we've had these sources of knowledge for 2,000 years, if you consider handwritten and then bound books to be the first books, or 600 nearly years if you take the starting point from the invention of the printing press. So that's amazing. Somebody 500 years ago could have read a book in exactly the same way as I read this book. Would have flipped the pages, let the words sink into their brain, taken in the meaning of the book. So I think that is marvellous. And I think Kindle cannot capture that same simple magic. It's a bit like, I think the thing I love about books is their simplicity. The fact that it is literally ink on paper and the pages stuck together. It's like, people love, you know, there's been a big renaissance in the love of records, vinyl records, over the last, you know, kind of 10 years or so. When I was a teenager, when I was really into music, you know, you could get, it was before you could really get CDs. So I bought most of my stuff on vinyl because tapes just didn't sound anywhere near as good. And the benefit of vinyl as well was you could then record it onto a tape. So you had, I would keep my records pristine for when I wanted to listen to music really properly, but if I wanted to chuck something in my Walkman or whatever, I had a cassette version of it as well. But there's something about vinyl, isn't there? There's something about the fact that there are grooves on a record and the needle reads those grooves and reads the little bumps in them. You know, it's a really completely analog process. And you know, that movement of the needle gets translated into whatever electricity which comes out there. Well, not even electricity actually, presumably, because the earlier ones were, you know, weren't electric. So yeah, so a book is similarly a wonderful analog thing with a rich history as an object, as well as the words, you know, contained within having history. So that's the general thing about books and why I love books. Now, why do I love old books? So I've got here a copy of Deep Water by Patricia Highsmith. So firstly, it's got a lovely kind of vintage cover, but that's not important for this discussion. So this was published in 1966. So what's that? That's 56 years ago. So 56 years ago, this book rolled off a printing press at Pound Books, was shipped out to a bookshop, somebody bought it, took it home, read it, hopefully enjoyed it, and then it has passed through God knows how many hands since then. So beyond the fact that, you know, many people have read this book, no doubt, Deep Water by Patricia Highsmith. Highsmith is a, you know, very well regarded, rightly so, crime author, you know, one of the queens of crime fiction. So many people have read Deep Water, but probably quite a few people have read this copy of Deep Water, and I find that amazing. I find it amazing that you know, this book, as I turn the pages and read the book, somebody else's hands have turned the pages, and you know, it's still in pretty good nick. But it's you know, it's faded. So you know, this is sat on someone's bookshelf in their home, and you know, the edges have got a bit of sun damage. I think that's wonderful. You know, I've got other ones here. Look at this. I've got this Agatha Christie one. This is older. This is from 62, so this is 60 years old. This one's a bit more tattered than the Highsmith. I bought this in a doctor's surgery in the town I live in. They had a little book sale going on, which sadly COVID has killed things like that. But yeah, this book has been, you know, this book's been around. This book's seen some things. I don't know how many people have read this book. It would be wonderful, wouldn't it, if every time someone read a book, they'd just put their name in it or something like that. I think when I was a kid at the local library, some people used to do that. They would sign their name in the book when they read it. But yeah, you know, how many people have read this book, have held this book, have enjoyed this actual book, and now I get to enjoy it. I think that's wonderful. I think that physical nature, that, you know, the nature of physical media, and I think particularly books. So you get people who are fans of like physical media, who are fans of like DVDs or like VHS, you know, particularly in the horror, you know, the horror fandom, there are lots of people who are really into VHS, which is great. Fantastic, love it. You know, everyone's got their own thing. I think that's brilliant. Personally, I just watch stuff on Netflix, but that's by the by. But there's something different about a book compared to a movie, compared to a videotape or a DVD or a CD or whatever. And that difference is that in order to read this book, you have to hold it in your hand and turn the pages. So when I do that, I'm doing exactly the same thing as countless other people, well, not countless, but you know, several other people have done before me. So this is going to sound really wanky, but you know, their spirit is in this book. It holds a legacy. I know what I'm saying is basically ridiculous, but it's also kind of magical, isn't it? It's a wonderful thing about old books that they have been loved by people before you, and people before you have, you know, have intimately held them and turned the pages. I felt that wonderful softness of the paper you get in a book. It's got a very slight roughness to it, hasn't it? But it's just gloriously soft. So yeah, that's why I love physical books, and particularly older physical books, because they have each individual book has its own history, and I think that's a really wonderful thing. So I hope you don't think I was talking a load of bollocks today. I got quite into that whole argument. Maybe I got a bit carried away, but anyway, yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're all safe and well. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you think I'm an idiot, or let me know if you agree with me. And as always, keep safe, keep well, and I'll speak to you again soon. Cheerio.